Good day and welcome back to On the Bench with Byers. Today I'm going to be speaking to a former professional hockey player and inter-county baseball player, Barry Boughner. So I'll welcome Barry in here.
How are you today?
Not bad, thanks Barry. Thanks a lot for being here.
My pleasure, thank you.
Yeah, I got a few notes. I just do things without edit. I just speak to people and get their stories of how they've made it from small town to big places and their journeys there. So don't feel uncomfortable. Speak your mind. Tell me to shut up when you need me to. And
when I'm finished, you might have to edit some of it.
No worries, no worries. So you're originally from southwestern Ontario, the Delhi area.
I was born and raised in Delhi, Ontario, a small community in southwestern Ontario. Actually, the Tobacco Belt of Canada. January 29th, 1948.
Yeah, so you grew right up. That's tobacco there in that area has almost stopped because of it's harmful to people's health now.
Well, a lot of people think that, but that's not true.
Oh, it's still going.
Tobacco's as big now as it ever was.
Okay.
They got rid of the Tobacco Growers Marketing Board, and the government bought up a lot of people's quota. Everybody did quota, and then the buyers go directly to the farmers now and make contracts with the tobacco farmers.
Okay.
No marketing board anymore, and tobacco's big.
Okay.
The way it is now is one guy probably grows 600 or 700 acres instead of 30 or 35 or 45 or 50.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tobacco there still.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of people don't think that.
Well, I didn't think so. I thought it was going down. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. So growing up there, your mom and dad, did you have siblings? How was your childhood growing up?
I had a brother that was almost 1 year and a few days younger than myself. And 2.5 years after that, my mom and dad had twins, brother and a sister.
Yeah.
So, I had 3 siblings growing up, and they all played sports.
Yeah, so a competitive household.
Very competitive, My 2 brothers were very good hockey players.
Yeah.
And my sister was an excellent figure skater and good in track and field. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very good.
Now, your parents, were they sports-minded folks, or?
No, my mother was, she came from London, England. My father met her when he was in the war.
Okay.
So she's a Canadian war bride. Yeah. She was English and never lost her accent for the whole time I was alive. My name was not Barry, it was Barry.
Barry.
Yes, and my father was a baseball player. My father loved baseball, which really helped me.
Yeah. No, so that's good. So, like you say, so you were the eldest of them all.
Yes.
So now when you start school, they want to emulate what you were doing, and so the sports you picked, they followed suit?
They all played sports, I never played hockey until I was 9 or 10 years old, though.
Okay.
And kids today start at 5 and 6, and
I think I was around 4 or 5.
They didn't even have minor hockey until 1957 when I was 9, and the first year I played minor hockey, we just split the ice into 3 different. And you just scrimmaged against each other. There was no competitive teams.
Yeah.
But then next year, in 1958, there was a competitive team. And my brothers and sisters, my 2 brothers played hockey behind me, and my sister took up figure skating.
Okay, yeah. So busy household.
Busy household. I don't know how my parents could ever afford. I know it didn't cost much to get into sports. Nothing like today. Today, the way I see it is your parents are either rich or they probably got 42 mortgages on their homes. The only way kids can play sports today.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We can jump right into that topic. I look at the sports today, the contracts that they're giving for the length of time they're getting. It's just crazy. And, I just think, my father with baseball, yourself with hockey, in those eras, the guys played because they were able to play at the highest level. But then they also had a job in the off season, and to keep themselves fit, they had to go above and beyond that. Now it's a whole regimen from off ice training to on ice training to hockey camps to you name it. The parents are spending every dollar to get their child there.
Well, if we were born in today's era, you could probably only play one sport.
Yeah.
Which I totally don't understand, and that brings up a discussion I heard that Bobby Orr had not long ago. When these kids now, they got to play hockey 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
And if you don't join the team in May or June,
Yeah.
after the other hockey season's already finished, you can't go and try out for a team once they start tryouts. Which I would have never played baseball in that case.
Yeah, I was the same way.
And I, as I grew up, I actually loved baseball more than I liked hockey.
Yeah.
And I played professional hockey, but I didn't play professional baseball.
Yeah. Well, you had the opportunity, like you say. I know myself. As soon as hockey was done, I played lacrosse. As soon as lacrosse done, I played hockey. And now, like you say, as soon as they're done playing winter hockey, they're doing spring, fall, camps, and it doesn't stop. It's like if you're not part of the clique, you're not fitting in. And it's really interesting.
Actually, kids sports today, it bothers me a little bit when kids got to pay $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 to play in like 16 and under, 17 and under, 18 and under competitive teams when it's not really, for example, London. It's not really a London team anymore.
Yeah.
They come from hundreds of miles away to play, pay $10,000 or $12,000. I'd like to know who's making all the money.
Yeah, well, you think in a day, all the people that are playing, say there's 22 guys on a team, they're paying that much each. Well, they're flooding the ice maybe 12, 15 times a day. So yeah, there's a lot more money sitting around. Where is it going? Yeah. All right, so we'll say you start playing minor hockey, and now you're still young. You're in elementary school. Any other sports that you picked up in elementary school, or?
In public school from like grade 8 and under, of course I played fastball on the fastball team in public school. Mm-hmm. I was really good at track and field. I played track and field. Played soccer. The only sport I couldn't play was basketball.
Yeah. Is there a reason for that one, or just?
I could run like hell.
Yeah.
I could shoot hoops, but I couldn't dribble the ball.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, no, I'm not very good at. I'm not complete at the sport. I wasn't good at all skills, so I gave up basketball in high school to stick with hockey and baseball and track and field in high school. Yeah. Public school. When I started hockey, I was a goaltender.
Okay.
My first year,
because
nobody else would play goal.
Yeah, so they needed someone. You stepped up.
So I said, well, if we're going to have a competitive team, somebody's got to play goal. So I decided to be a goaltender.
And how did you feel about that? Did you like it? Did you like the experience?
Yeah, I didn't mind it, but the funny thing is that I was the fastest skater in the team, even with all the goalie equipment.
Yeah.
So in my second year, which became competitive, the first year was house league. The second year was competitive. I played on the Pee Wee All-Star team. Yeah. And we were in the playoffs against Tillsonburg. And no mask back then. That's actually about the time that Jacques Plante first wore a mask in the National Hockey League. Yeah. Nobody wore masks. And I got hit in the forehead right here. I'll never forget the kid's name. It was Nick Stillwell from Tillsonburg. Hit me in the playoffs. Cut me wide open. And had a terrible headache for 3 or 4 days. Yeah. And a little story, the coach just bought a brand new camel hair coat, comes out of the ice, and I'm bleeding all over his brand new coat. So they took me down the road, and they put in 5 or 6 staples. They didn't stitch it, staples, and so I had headaches. That was our last game in the playoffs because we got beat out. And I had a headache. I had a headache for a week, and I hardly ever had headaches in my whole life.
Probably that's a concussion at that time that we didn't know about.
It could have been, because I had headaches. I had headaches for 8 or 10 days, and I didn't feel well enough to go to school for 3 or 4 days, and I actually hated missing school. Yeah. Because my theory was, who wants to spend 24 hours a day with their mother when you can go to school with all your friends?
Yeah, true enough. Yeah, you only see the friends.
So I decided then that I wasn't going to be a goalie anymore. Yeah. So the next year I played, my first year in Bantam, I led the league in scoring as a defenseman.
Yeah, went from goalie to a defenseman.
That's what put me on the path to professional hockey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you got to high school, was there high school sports? Like, did you guys have hockey, football, and all that, and baseball or anything?
The only high school sport that was competitive was basketball
Okay.
and football.
Okay.
Back in that era.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I don't even know about London. I think in London they had high school hockey then. I think so.
Okay.
But they didn't have high school hockey when I played.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I played football, and I played on the football team for 2 years, grade 9 and grade 10. And in grade 9 and 10, I was very good at track and field. I loved track. I loved all the sports, really, that I knew I could be good at.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that was most of them. In grade 9, I entered 10 events, and 6 of them I never did before. Shot put, javelin,
high jump?
High jump,
long jump, hurdles?
The one where you used the pole vault. Never did it in my life.
Yeah.
So track and field day came.
Yeah.
I entered all 10 events, and I won all 10 events and broke 9 school records.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And the 11th event was the open mile.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody from grade 13 to grade 9 could go in it.
Okay.
And I was in grade 9, and I went in it, and there was only 3 competitors, 2 from grade 13, and I was in grade 9. And I beat the grade 13s when I was in grade 9 in the open mile. And the 2 of them never talked to me ever after that. I think they were pretty disappointed.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you get a little embarrassed when the people younger than you, they do it. Yeah. And so you're in your high school now. You were playing minor hockey in Delhi. Was there any junior D, junior C at that time? Or what was the highest level? Like now in London, there's AA, AAA, there's junior Mustangs, junior Knights. Like there's so many options now. What were the options back then?
Back in that year, there were the levels were like Delhi was a small community, 3,000. I think we were in category C. It was all dependent on population.
Okay.
But we played against most of the towns we played against, with the exception of Norwich, that was probably smaller than Delhi. We played against Simcoe, Ontario. We played against Tillsonburg, Ontario. Port Dover, Ontario, being the same category as us. So we played with a few teams at our level, but we were always playing teams above our level, like Ingersoll, and which was really good. I like that. And but Delhi, we always had good minor hockey teams, and as did the other towns. It was very competitive, and the highest level when I was there was juvenile. They actually had juvenile hockey, but 5, 6, 7 years later, a lot of kids didn't play juvenile because they brought in junior C teams and junior D teams, and a lot of kids went from either midget to junior C or junior D. So the highest level I played in Delhi was Bantam.
Okay.
Then I went on to junior hockey.
Yeah, they state that 16-year-old, as you turn 17, is the drop-off age for hockey, because if kids don't make junior C, which it is now, but it used to be junior D and junior C, they just gave up because a lot of their friends made those teams, and then those juvenile teams, the numbers were low, right? Or major midget it was. Now they call it U17. They've changed everything even since I played. But I remember I was coaching in St. Mary's in 2004, and it was called Shamrock Double B hockey. So it would be from the geographic of how many the population of the town. So that's why that was double B hockey. So when you say C level when you were younger, that would be equivalent to the
in most cases in the season you'd play your closest communities. But each one of those communities could be at a different level.
Correct.
For example, Simcoe would probably be B. Port Dover would probably be C like us, and Norwich would be C or D level. Tillsonburg would have been B level. So we were playing, most of the time we were playing against teams, cities or towns, the players that were better than than our team.
And that helps you grow as a player too, playing against teams that are better.
The better the competition, the better you get.
Exactly. So now when you went to your first junior, what was it? Was it junior C, junior B? What was the next level you put yourself at the time?
I played 2 years of Bantam, then I was midget age, but I went to play junior C in Simcoe at the age of 14. And at 14, I'm playing against 21-year-olds. And then I played 1 year in Simcoe Junior C, and that was just 8 or 10 miles east of Delhi. And then the next year I played Junior B in Tillsonburg, was 10 or 12 miles west of Delhi. So now I was 15 years old playing with 21-year-olds. And then in my third year, Tillsonburg didn't have a team. Now that team in Tillsonburg, I think we won like 4 games all year.
Yeah.
And that was London Nationals' first year in the London Gardens.
Okay, yeah.
It was called Treasure Island Gardens at London Gardens. And I can remember playing in Tillsonburg. We might get 200 or 300 fans.
Yeah.
And our team was terrible.
Yeah.
And I got a couple little stories there. And then we'd go to play in London. They'd have 4,000, 5,000 fans. It felt like you were in the National Hockey League. And they averaged like 4,000, 5,000 fans a year because that was the first time they ever had a good arena.
Yeah.
They used to play it out of the old barn. And a lot of people who might watch this would remember the old barn was at the Western Fair.
The old Western Fair.
And that was in the summertime when they had the fair on. They put the cattle in there and everything else. That was their best arena.
Like an auction barn. I played in one like that in Milverton. It was an arena during the winter.
Yeah.
And then it was the auction barn in the summer. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I never played against Milverton, but I can remember at the end of the year playing in Tillsonburg. Our team was terrible. We had 3 or 4 really good hockey players. But that was it. We had 3 or 4 good hockey players, and then the rest was not too good. It was a terrible team. But I can remember going into London the last game of the year, and we couldn't even afford enough hockey sticks for all the players. So what happened was the first and second line would play, and when they come off the ice, they had to give you a stick so you could go on the ice. That's
pretty remarkable.
That's how poor our team was.
That's a good.
And thank God we didn't break a couple sticks, or we wouldn't have had any for the 2 lines. So it was. But you know, they're great memories.
Yeah.
And when I eventually went on to professional hockey, that year in Junior B in Tillsonburg is the year I remembered the most.
Yeah.
Because it was a huge sacrifice.
Yeah.
To play it was depressing to play in such a bad team, but you never gave up.
Yeah.
Your dream was to go to bigger levels, and when I finally made it to professional hockey, I remembered those days more than any other days in all the years I played hockey.
No, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
Now, when you were playing Junior B and stuff, I know myself, you know, I was playing lacrosse in the off season, and I'd try and go for runs. I would try and exercise with a friend of mine, Matt Nicholson. But what would you do back in that era to keep yourself fit or to get fitter and get prepared for training camp or to move on to the next level? Like what kept driving you, and because in that era, you know, like the way I look at it now in today's world, there's television everywhere, there's the internet. Yeah. So you can look and see what your competitor that you're fighting for that spot's doing. You can see and train the way the other professionals are doing. But back then, you didn't have that obligation. You had no way to see what the next guy was doing to get better. And what was the trick back then, and to take it that serious to push yourself to the next level?
Well, you can relate that to probably any sport in that era. You could relate that to probably, especially hockey.
Yep.
Baseball is a little different. No, I'd say the same. All those professional sports, back in those days, you went to training camp to get in shape.
Yeah.
You never worked out in the summer.
Yep.
Not like they do today.
Yeah.
Now, I was always busy because I played baseball. I worked in the tobacco fields.
Yep.
I didn't walk anywhere. I ran everywhere I went.
Yep.
And I have friends that tell me that, Boogie, when you were a little kid, I never seen you walk. You're always running past my house, or you're running down the street.
Yeah.
But we especially in professional hockey, I could best relate it to that. In all I did in the summer, I would go ride my bike in Fanshawe Park, or I would run 3 or 4 miles. I kept myself in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I actually went to training camp probably in that year better than most guys,
yeah.
because I was still busy playing baseball.
Yep.
And I was always running. I was always going there. I was always busy. I worked in the tobacco field. It was very physical work. But today, man, these guys train all year round.
Yeah.
If you go to training camp and you're not in shape, that can be very devastating for you, especially with the money they're making today.
Oh, exactly.
Some guy comes in, a new guy comes in, he wants your spot.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
Right? So, but back in the day, guys drank beer all summer, and had the life of Riley, but today they work like hell.
Yeah.
I respect them for that. That should have been like that in our era too.
Yeah, well, I always wondered that because, like, even from your era to my era to the era now, like when I was in London, we didn't have dry land training. I went to St. Mary's. We had dry land training. It just started to be implemented.
Yeah.
That it wasn't just the on ice that you were going to do. You were going to start doing some off ice stuff to help you get that edge, that one step greater than your competitors. So I just was curious, and like obviously today I can go online. I can type up, what does Connor Bedard do in his off season, and he's got exercises he does, and parents or the player himself can look it up and emulate or look for someone that can teach or train them that technique in the off season. Yeah.
Professional sports is that's a tough grind now. Players are in shape all year round.
Yeah.
They even go in the training rooms after games.
Yeah.
They lift weights. They ride the bike.
Yeah.
They do calisthenics. And it's a tough grind, boy. When you got to fly from you got to fly from Ottawa and Montreal all the way to LA and all the way to Vancouver and all the way to Florida. It's a grind, boy.
Oh, yeah.
They're making a lot of money. I don't know if they're worth all the money they're making. Like some of them are making tons.
Yeah.
But you know what? These guys are tremendous athletes.
Oh,
today.
yeah. Their bodies are machines.
To compare athletes today to what in our era, I have people that still want to say that the athletes today aren't as good as they were. I said, come on, these athletes today are superior to what we were.
The science that's been behind everything.
It's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. So, you've gone to a few junior camps. You've played junior B at that time. It's funny, you said, you only went a little bit more to the east to Simcoe and a little bit west to Tillsonburg. Yeah. And I always wondered, and I asked my father about this with baseball, when you're from a small town and there was no internet, or there was no videos, how did you get noticed? But obviously when you're only going a little bit east, a little bit west, you're playing them in the minor levels, like in the Atom and Bantam ages. Yeah. So those coaches, are they already looking for those prospects to bring up in those neighboring cities and towns? Because like how do you do it? Or is there just open camps and you go and try out? Or
back in that era, you basically had to play to the town closest to you.
Okay.
Or you had to live there.
Okay.
For example, your father Dave lived north of Dundas Street. I'm going to assume that he played in Dorchester. I don't know if he could have played in London or not.
Okay.
Because usually you had to play to your closest community if you weren't in that community.
Yeah.
So if he played in Dorchester but lived north of Dundas Street out by the airport in London, that was probably, I don't know if that'd be closer to Labatt Park or not. I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they determined it, but when I played, all the little towns weren't that far apart.
Yeah.
So you had to play in the closest community to where you were. There was no complaining about that. I think all the kids played where they wanted to play. Now the only thing that might happen is if you had disagreements with the association you were playing in, your parents would probably have to go to the association and say, we don't want to play here. Yeah. Would you release us to let us go play somewhere else? Yeah. And in most cases, well, if I were part of minor hockey, I'd say, what's the use of having a kid in your team who doesn't want to play here?
Yeah, true
so
enough. Yeah,
let him go where he wants. But some people aren't like that.
Yeah,
right?
No, it's still like that.
Yeah.
Like I remember myself, same principle. I from London, I had to go to London first, and you would get a release.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't want you had to go there, they give you a release. Now I could go to any neighboring community to try out.
Yeah.
But until then, you had to go to your local one. Either give it a tryout or get released to go elsewhere. So
any association that would hold a kid back from playing, I don't agree with it. I think
that's the politics of it.
I got words that could describe them a lot better than I don't agree with it.
Well,
I'll leave that out.
I think I've been a guy who they held on to till the very end, Boogie, because what happened is they were waiting to see if guys from the level up are coming down.
Yeah.
This one.
I can see that at the junior level.
Yeah.
When you're getting into very competitive hockey, now the scouts are coming around, but at the same time, like if what good is having someone on your team that doesn't want to play there?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree.
That's going to create
Bad
friction,
morale and
it's not good. You want team unity.
Yeah.
That doesn't
And
create
bonding,
that wrecks team unity.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah.
About that time, it's funny. I got 2 goals in a fight that game, and I came off, and they told me I was cut. I was like, huh. And moved on, moved on. But yeah, that was,
Back in that era, every team wanted a few fighters. But,
it was interesting to say the least.
yeah, but today, that's one thing that's really different about hockey today, and something I really appreciate, and that'll get me into another story that's happened recently, is back in our era, almost every team had 1 or 2 tough guys.
Yep.
And they weren't necessarily good enough to play on a regular basis.
Yeah, like a
Some of them
regular
were,
shift,
but
yeah.
most of them weren't. I guess the terminology they used back in those days, they were goons, and I didn't like to use that. They were tough guys that were on the team just to start fights, and I personally didn't like that.
Yep.
But in today's game, there may be tough guys that can fight, but if they can't skate and play hockey, they can't play at
That's
this
right.
level. The
Yeah.
game's way too good, right?
Yeah, it's too fast. of a
And
game
I
for
like
some-
it because you don't see much fighting anymore. You see very highly skilled athletes
Yeah.
at every level, and I love that. I
Yeah.
love it. So that brings me to the Canada USA in the four
Nations Cup.
the Four Nations Cup. In my opinion, when I seen the lineup, I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
If I'm the president and there were stage fights, I suspend the players.
Yeah.
Stage fights are ridiculous. The game's so professional, it's so classy. That's classless to me.
Yeah. Like the heat of the moment.
And it's
the
not a
action.
surprise to me that the 2 Tkachuk brothers did that.
Yeah.
I would have suspended both of them. And the other thing is, I don't know why that Four Nations didn't implement the rule they use in the Olympics. You fight, you're out of the game.
Yeah. Well, so
That gets rid of that BS.
yeah. So this was put on by the NHL, where the Olympics and the
I
world
wish they
is
would
all
implemented that
international.
rule.
Yeah. Well, you never know. That may have caused some changes for if they do it again, right? Like, you never know, right? This is their first year doing it.
All the guys who like fights loved it. Me, I like to see skill. Hey, I'm not there to see the best fighter. I'm there to see the best skilled player.
Yeah.
Who do you want to watch?
Yeah.
Tkachuk fight or
they're both
Connor
good hockey
McDavid
players
go
too. Yeah.
or watch Connor McDavid go to end and
Well, that's pretty nice to watch too.
make 2 defensemen look like there's wheelbarrows.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he can turn those
Yeah.
jets on.
Yeah.
So we talked about you had to go to your nearest center. So now you played junior B. Now, when do you get the call, or how do you know, or did you have to go try out into the OHL, like into major junior hockey to the OHL?
Okay, that's a great question, and it doesn't apply today. Up until 1970, every player that played junior B or C,
Yeah.
or junior A, they were owned by an NHL hockey team.
Okay.
They signed what they call a C form.
Okay.
Now you might have signed a junior C in Simcoe, and you might have been in the Boston Bruins organization.
Okay. So even those levels were as well.
right down to junior C and junior B.
Okay.
So I played junior B for the London Nationals.
Yeah.
Every guy was owned by the Toronto Maple Leafs,
Okay.
unless they were traded and moved from one center. Let's say a kid came from Guelph.
Yep.
Guelph was New York Rangers.
Okay.
Kitchener was New York Rangers.
Okay.
St. Catharines was Chicago Blackhawks.
Okay.
Right? Hamilton was Detroit Red Wings.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, up until 1970 was when the first draft came.
Okay.
And then after that, all the players that came up were still owned by those NHL teams.
Yep.
But all the players that played 1970 and after, they had to go in a draft.
Okay.
NHL teams didn't own players anymore.
Okay.
So if you came up in Toronto, in the Toronto minor hockey system,
Yep.
then you played for the Marlies, you were automatically owned by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So was St. Michael's Makers
Yeah.
Junior A team.
Yeah.
All Junior A teams were owned by an NHL team.
Okay.
Barry Flyers were owned by Boston Bruins. Niagara Falls was owned by the Boston Bruins.
Okay.
All the Junior A teams were owned by an NHL team.
I don't know if I knew that. If I did, I
Yeah.
definitely forgot it.
Yeah.
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 So I was owned by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and after the first year of Junior B, Toronto wanted to put wanted a second junior A team because St. Michael's Majors no longer had junior A hockey.
Okay.
So they wanted another junior A team. So Toronto put a junior A team in London.
Yeah.
And the New York Rangers tried to get a team in London because the London executive that ran the junior B team
Yeah.
weren't sure they wanted Toronto in here. They might have wanted to disassociate. So the Rangers in Toronto were going there, and the Leafs won out.
Okay.
So every player that I played with in
Yep.
Junior A, with Gary Younger and Walt McKechnie, Jim Dorey, Jerry Desjardins, Gary Younger, great players,
Yeah.
all good players. They were all owned by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So when they
Okay.
left junior, they went to Toronto Maple Leaf training camp unless they were traded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
So I played 1 year at Junior B and 3 years at Junior A.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
your first year of Junior B with London, and then your first 2 years with London in Major Junior, they were the London Nationals.
London Nationals for all 3 years. I played 1 year at Junior B and 3 years at Junior A. They're all London Nationals. Yeah. The 1967-68 season was the last year of Junior A.
So do you think the London Nationals, when they had the leaf on their jersey,
Well,
was that because of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
That's right.
See, I didn't know that.
Maple
Yeah.
Leafs, yeah.
Yeah, and I played for the London
Yeah.
Nationals, but we had
Yeah.
a big N back then. But I didn't know that. But that kind of makes sense.
Prior to them playing at the London Gardens, they were owned by Canadian National Railway, sponsored
Okay.
the team. So they were called the London Nationals from Nationals.
Okay,
But
so the
once
name came.
then when the Leafs got it in,
Yeah.
they put the leaf on it with
Yeah.
London Nationals.
Okay, well
Yeah.
that's a good history lesson right there
Yeah.
too. I was unaware of. So now, when you were with London, I may get the first name wrong, but the first goal ever scored was by Gorman.
David Gorman.
David Gorman, yeah.
Yes. David Gorman scored the first goal
Yeah,
in the first game. I think about a minute and a half into the first Junior A game London played, he
Yeah.
scored in Barry. He scored the first goal.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. I just know that his son, later on in life, him and I coached a high school team together for many
Yeah.
years, and he played 1 year in the United Pro League, and his
Yeah.
name was Harry, and he's a great
Harry,
hockey player
yeah.
as well. And I just remember somewhere my looking up things underneath back in that era, it said that, sorry, was it Dave Gorman?
David Gorman.
Yeah, he scored the first goal, and I just thought that was pretty neat. You don't see the statistic of the first player who scored for a team that often in the documentation of the history of the team.
And the first goal at home was scored by Len Mazet
Len Mazet.
in the first game at home against Oshawa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about a few guys that played with you in London, that moved on as well to the pro levels. Now, when you're young like that and you're local, like you were local to London, even though you were from Delhi,
Yeah.
you're local to some of the players. Did you guys have a good morale and good camaraderie? Did you guys have to go to a high school here and be part of, or did you guys still just drive in for the games and practices, or was there billets back then? Did you guys have a team house? Like, how did it all
Almost all
conform?
of the players that played on that London Nationals team lived in London or nearby.
Okay.
For example, Harry Bartley lived, I think, in Belmont.
Okay.
Dave Gorman lived out in Byron,
Yeah.
which soon became London.
Correct.
And some of the players came from Toronto because they were owned by the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, they were
And they came and played there, but they all played there, and anyone played in that team, they all went to high school. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They all went to high school somewhere. Harry
Yeah.
Bartley probably went, I wouldn't even know where he would have went, probably in Dorchester.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I guess Dorchester did have a high
Yeah.
school, yeah.
Yeah.
Dave Gorman probably went to, I don't know, Westminster.
Yeah.
Yeah, but almost all the players went to school, yeah. Junior B and Junior A, most of them. But some of the Junior A players didn't go to school.
Yeah.
But they would get a job and work instead of sitting around all day.
Yeah, it's like nowadays, if you're playing on an OHL team, they all get put to the same school. They have billets, that put the
Yeah.
players up. And now, way back when, myself and Jeff Kaufman, we were the two guys from London, but we got to stay in our home school.
Yeah.
I don't know why, and Jeff was there for a couple of years, but everyone else was going to Saunders. But I remember there was a team bonding thing they took us paintballing or something
Yeah.
like that. Now, did they do things even back then to keep the morale going outside of just the game?
No, most of the guys went to different schools.
Yeah, so when you got to the rink, that's when your camaraderie and your building of the team was, you know, outside it really wasn't much then.
You see, I started junior at 14, 15. Now I'm 16. I got to play 3 more years of junior hockey before I'm playing with somebody my own age.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a carouser or a night guy.
Well, you couldn't drive. Someone's driving you, right? So you got to go as well.
I didn't drink alcohol even when I passed junior hockey and junior baseball. I would hardly ever have a beer, and there's a reason for that I wouldn't want to get into.
Yeah.
However, no, our camaraderie back in those days was at the rink.
Yeah.
And when we went to school, when I played junior B and junior A, you get out of school, you went home.
Yeah.
And then you went to practice, right? To Ray, 4:30 practice.
Yeah.
And you never got home till 6 or 6:30, and you hoped the landlady had your supper ready.
Yeah. Okay, so you're playing in the OHL, the Ontario Hockey League, at this point for the London Nationals. Now you're playing. Is there teams, like you say, they're owned by teams? So I'm trying to picture this and understand. You're owned by the Toronto Maple Leafs, so there's no draft at that time.
No.
So if you're 16 and you're good, can you get asked to go try out for a pro team? Like the World Hockey's going, the NHL's going. Like, you know, could you be at 17 years old and they say, you know, we want John Smith to go to Vancouver to the World Hockey team for a tryout? Or was there an age where they said that's when you could move up? Like, you know, I mean, if there's no draft, I don't know when an age would be then. You know what I mean?
You're asking me a question. I can't answer part of that question.
No, that's fine.
Most of the players in that era, almost all of them, you had to finish your junior hockey career before you could play professional hockey.
So you had to be 20 to 21 to move on to that next level.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then you went to the team's training camp that you were already owned by in junior hockey.
And then if you didn't make that, then you could go to another team if one was available.
They might send you down to the American Hockey League, and they might send you to the Central Hockey League.
Yeah.
They might send you to the International Hockey League or the Eastern Hockey League.
Yeah.
There was all levels, and some chose to go to Europe and play hockey, even back then.
Yeah, so if I remember, because it's different now, so it went NHL, AHL, East Coast, International. Was there the Central League back then as well?
Central Hockey.
Central and the East Coast.
Yeah.
Was there United Pro League back then?
No.
No, okay.
No.
So the IHL and the East Coast and the Central were the 3 bottom feeders.
So the lowest level was the International Hockey League and the Eastern Hockey League.
Okay.
And then the first step up from that was the Central Hockey League.
Okay.
And then up from that was the American Hockey League.
Yes.
The American Hockey League, most of the players in the Central Hockey League were rated out as junior.
Okay.
Because they had age limits.
Yes.
You could only have guys up to 25, and you might only have allowed 3 guys over 25.
Okay.
And if you didn't go to the American Hockey League or to the National Hockey League, your career was probably over then.
Okay.
So they did that. The reason they did that is they gave you 2 or 3 years, and if you didn't make it to the National Hockey League in 2 or 3 years, you probably had to decide on your own that you weren't going to get to the National Hockey League, or they might put you in the American Hockey League because you're a good enough player that you might get called up.
Yep.
And if you weren't good enough, if they didn't think you were good enough to get called up or help the younger kids mature, your career was probably over.
So you're saying the Central East Coast, basically, you could be there till you were 25. Is that what you're saying?
No, in the Eastern League and the International League, you could stay for as long as you
want.
Oh,
okay.
Most of the time, you weren't going up from there.
Yeah. You were.
If you were sent to the Central Hockey League or the American Hockey League by your team, by the National League team, you were thinking your chances, they're going to give me 1 or 2 years to get better to get up.
Yeah. And after
if you didn't get sent to those 2 teams and you went to the Eastern League or the International League, your chances of going up were slim.
Yeah.
No, it did happen from time to time because it happened to me.
Yep.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah. Well, that happens, I think, still today. Like now, different way it goes: NHL, AHL, East Coast, and then there's the South Pacific Hockey League. Then there's the Federal Professional League, and then there still is the Quebec Pro League, which is the lowest level.
Yeah.
And then we have Major League Hockey, we have Allen Cup Hockey. But I think only a goalie has ever been moved up from the South Pacific Hockey League to the NHL.
Yeah.
But like you say, some of those other ones are just to say you're doing it before you decide what you're going to do in life. Just to say you're still playing, because, like you say, there's not too many people, by the books have actually worked their way back up from that low in the pro ranks.
In most cases, most of the guys that didn't get sent to the American Hockey League or the Central League, probably in most cases, they made the right decision. Those guys probably weren't going to go up any higher in professional hockey. That was considered professional hockey, but it was at the lowest level.
Yeah.
However, my own self, I was let go by the Leafs. I went to the Pittsburgh training camp. Then I went to the International Hockey League. I didn't even have a chance to go to the Central League. I went, and I ended up in the International Hockey League for 1 year. The next year, I went up to the American Hockey League and the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
So I was an exception to the rule.
Yeah. Now, if I can just interrupt you, so when you left Toronto, was it your own doing to find another place, or did Pittsburgh know from training camp because they have scouts out watching? How did you get the move to Pittsburgh?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
At Toronto Maple Leaf training camp was in Peterborough.
Okay.
And the coach, the guy that was coaching, for God's sakes, the name's not coming to me. He coached Toronto's Tulsa. He coached Tulsa, Toronto Maple Leafs farm team.
Okay.
So at that time they had Tulsa, and then they had in the Central League, and they had Rochester in the American Hockey League. That was their two teams.
Okay. The feeding system.
They had two feeding systems, right? And the coach, who ended up, I can't remember his name right now, he came to me at about the fourth workout at Toronto Maple Leaf training camp, and he says, Barry, I want you to know that I'm going to take you to Tulsa.
Yeah.
You're going to come to Tulsa, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and
Central League.
I want to take you to the Central Hockey League. So I go home. I tell my folks, I call my mother and my father and my brother and sisters, and I tell them that I'm going to be going to Tulsa when training camp, when the NHL camp finishes here. The guys will go to Rochester, go to Tulsa. Well, the next day I went back. The trainer came to the dressing room after practice and says, Barry Boughner, they want to Punch Imlach and George Davis and the scouts want to talk to you up in the room. So I figure I'm going to sign the contract.
Yeah,
right?
you get excited.
So, you're calm, but you're excited inside, but you try to compose yourself and stay calm and don't say anything stupid. And when I went in there, I sat down, and there was about 4 or 5 in the room. They had 2 or 3 of their scouts. Bob Davison was the head scout. Jim Gregory was there. Punch Imlach was there. And the other guy, I know his name, but it's not coming to me right now. And they said, well, Barry, you've had a pretty good training camp, he says, but we're going to release you today. And I said, you're going to release me today? I said, I was just told yesterday that I was going to be going to Tulsa.
Yeah, and the Central.
Is there any reason why you told me that? I went home and told my parents and everything. I said, I'm shocked by that. They said, well, that's our decision, so you can pack your stuff and you can leave. And what they don't tell you is that you can leave, but if you try to go play somewhere else, that team would have to get a release from Toronto.
Request for release.
Right. So what I did when I left that training camp, which is in Peterborough, I went to Brantford, where Pittsburgh Penguins training camp was.
Okay.
And I had a really good training camp there. I was scoring 3 or 4 goals every scrimmage, and I remember the coach and manager's name was Rudy Miguel. And there was a guy there named Jean Gravel who played in the Western Hockey League, pro, like the American Hockey League. And he was at training camp, and he came to me and he says, boy, oh boy, you're having a good training camp. He says, I don't know, I think you're going to make this hockey team. They'll probably send you to the Central League. And I forget where their Central Hockey League team was.
Yeah.
That'll come to me through the
Yeah,
conversation.
no worries, yeah.
But anyway, they let me go, and then I went to 2 or 3 more International Hockey League teams. So after going to 6 teams, I finally made a team.
You found a home.
It was Port Huron.
Yeah. Were they called the Flags back then?
The Port Huron Flags,
Yeah.
and they really have no affiliated. They're not affiliated.
Yeah.
Now you're at the lowest level of hockey where you can actually play and make money. Right?
Yes, make an earning.
So Ted Garvin was the coach, and he signed me to a contract, but he only played me on the road games.
Oh, reason for that? Too many guys on the team?
Well,
or
normally back in those days, the guys that played on the road were the tougher guys
Okay.
because the guys who were goal scorers that weren't too physical.
Yeah.
The goal scorers played at home.
Okay.
So I asked Ted Garvin. I said, Ted, I try to figure out why do I just play the road games and I don't get to play at home. He says, well, because you're pretty aggressive. You're a tough guy. He says, I need to take tough guys in the home because I got guys here that are goal scorers, but they don't seem to score. They don't get involved in the action too much.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Ted, I'm going to try to make some common sense, and hopefully you can hear me out.
Yeah.
I said, well, if I'm playing that aggressive on the road and I'm playing good, and most of the guys play better at home, if I play that good on the road, wouldn't you not think I'd play a little better at home then?
Yeah, in front of the crowd.
And he says, well, these guys are goal scorers and you're the physical guy. I'm going to stick with that program for now, and we'll see what happens. Next day at practice, we practiced, and Mr. Garvin said to me, Boogie, I want to meet you tomorrow morning for breakfast just down the street from the McMorran Arena in Port Huron. And I said, okay. He said, what time? He says 9 o'clock. And I said, okay. So I went to the restaurant down the street from the arena. And when I got there, Ted Garvin, the coach, was already sitting down. He was already eating his breakfast. And he didn't even wait for me.
Yeah.
So I said to myself,
Hope he got the bill.
I said, that's not a good sign either.
Yeah.
He's already eaten his breakfast. Maybe he didn't want to pay for mine. I don't know. I was pretty shocked, actually. So I sat down and I said, well, you've already finished your breakfast. I said, should I order something to eat? Oh, yeah, you order, we'll have a little chat. So after I ate, he says, I've come to a decision. I was thinking about your conversation the other day, and he says, well, he says, I've got good news and I got bad news. He says, which do you prefer to hear? I said, well, I'd rather hear the bad news first. He says, well, you can play, you can definitely play in this league, but he said, I've got a pretty good team here, so I think you can play in the league. So I traded you to Des Moines. And I said, you traded to me. He says, the bad news, you're not going to play in this team, but I traded you to Des Moines. That's the good news. And I said, well, and I wanted to know who he traded me for. So when I go there, I want to know who I'm talking about, what happened. I wanted to go in there knowing the whole story.
Yeah.
So he says, well, the reason I traded you was 3 of their players got in a car accident.
Oh.
And he says, one of them died, and the other 2 are so badly injured they can't play anymore. And I says, well, can you tell me what their names are, so when I go there, I'm aware of what happened.
The situation,
yeah,
remorse.
And you know what? And at least I know what they're talking about when they start talking. He says, well, the one guy's name was Silver, and the other guy's name was Gray, and he says, I can't remember what the other kid's name was. So, being the smartass that I was, I said, so, you traded me for a guy named Silver and a guy named Gray, and the dead guy said, so you traded me for 2 other guys and a dead man. And he looked at me and he couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
And now, don't take that, I'm not a racist, but he traded me for a Gray and a Silver and a dead man.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went there, and the coach was Howie Milford. Now, Howie Milford, in the 6 years I played hockey, was the best coach I ever had in hockey. He taught me how to play my position, and he was on me all the time, which I didn't like. But one of the players come up to me, and he says, because they knew I was a little upset about being picked on all the time.
Yep.
And 2 or 3 of the guys that were real good veterans that were a little older, their careers were almost over, says, Boogie, don't get mad at him. You're the only guy in the team he talks to.
Yeah. So they were
and
saying
you know why
that
he's talking to you? Because he sees something in you that he doesn't see in anybody else.
Yeah.
He's pushing you. He wants to know how far he can push you, and he wants to know if you can be pushed.
Yeah.
I
said, it's good of the veterans, though, to see that, to kind of calm you down and smooth things out.
It never stopped me from working hard, because no matter what I did, my objective was to outwork everybody in practice, games, all the time. Because I never, ever thought once in my life that I was the best player in the team.
Yeah.
I always thought I had to work harder to be the best.
Oh, yeah.
So I never said to myself, I'm the best player. I always convinced myself that somebody else was better, so I could work harder to catch them. Yeah. So anyway, I struggled at first. Then they made a trade. They got 2 guys from Toledo, 2 really experienced guys. They brought in a centerman and a very smart hockey player, and a right winger, and I played left wing, and this guy was really good with the puck. He was a master passer, and he just said to me, Boogie, when you get to the red line, I want you to break as hard as you can, and I'll put the biscuit in your puck, the biscuit on your basket.
Yeah.
And I scored 19 goals in the last 21 games.
Yeah, that's remarkable.
Yeah, and I had a great year. And to make a long story really short, the next year I invited myself to the Oakland Seals training camp.
Yeah.
And that was the first year of the draft, 1970. They drafted 11 guys. They sent 11 guys plus myself, a free agent.
Yep.
They sent me to the American Hockey League.
Yep.
And I was the first guy to sign. I signed before all 11 of their draft picks.
Jeez, that's pretty remarkable.
And that year I actually went up to the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to backtrack you. So when you were in Port Huron and they made that trade for you, do you think the coach listened to you and was like, you know what, you can play more than just away games? And this was his way saying, in my style of coaching, I can't offer you that, but because this scenario came available, that you're going to be able to play both home and away games? Or did you just take it as like that talk may have pushed this trade over the edge?
I think what he obviously knew I was good enough to play.
Yeah.
And he thought he had the pieces on the team.
Yep.
Without me being on the team.
Yeah. The puzzle was put together.
And he explained that to me.
Yeah.
But I had a difference of opinion, and he never gave me the chance to play at home.
Yep.
Now, to tell you what happened at the end of that year, and you guys will know, they used to have the hockey news. The hockey news used to come out every week or every month.
Yep.
And what they did in the hockey news, they would review the International League.
Yeah.
They'd review the Eastern League, all the teams.
Yeah.
And all the scores and all the standings all the time. It wasn't
they were like ranking every so often.
Oh, they rank all the teams in hockey, and they put the International League, the Western Hockey League, what was like the American Hockey League, and at the end of the year, Port Huron did win the Turner Cup.
Okay, yeah.
And he was interviewed in the hockey news, and the guy who did the interview, that was Bob McKenzie, who's still on Hockey Night in Canada. He was the guy who started the hockey news. So he asked Ted Garvin, he said, what's the best decision you made all year?
Yeah.
Now, I can't remember what the best decision you made all year, but he says, what was the worst decision you made all year? He says, I traded Barry Boughner to Des Moines, and he turned out to be one of the best players in the league, and he says, I probably shouldn't have traded him, and he told me that.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it was nice of him to say that.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Now,
he did me a favor, traded me there, because when I went there, I played. I played.
Yeah. Well, the more you play, the more you get comfortable, the more you're going to get going.
And when they made the trade with the Toledo team, and they brought those 2 experienced hockey players and put me on that line, it was like hitting a home run.
Yeah. It all came together.
Well,
your puzzle was getting completed.
Yeah, exactly.
So, again, gonna go back. So, when you went to Toronto the first time, just on this note, you guys didn't have agents back then? You actually would go in and you would do the speaking and the negotiating on your own? Or did some guys have agents, or was that not a thing yet?
Well, some might have, but that's basically when it started.
Yeah.
Because Bobby Orr, not that year, a year or 2 after, when Bobby Orr graduated from Oshawa, and then, I can't remember his name, a couple other guys from Junior A, the stars in Junior A.
Yep.
Then
Start moving up.
the draft came along, and in 1970 when the draft came, that's when the agent came on.
Yep.
When you were owned by Toronto,
Yeah.
nobody really had an agent. And if they did, there was very few guys. But once the draft came in 1970, all the guys started taking. Because you got to remember, Bobby Orr went to the Bruins in 1967.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when guys, when he started taking on agents, he had Eagleson, and that's a long story.
Yeah.
That's when agents finally came on, but guys that went to play in the American League, most of them didn't have agents. But 3 or 4 years after that, that's when people started taking on agents, and that's when the league started. Everybody could find out what everybody else was making.
Yep.
And back before that, nobody knew what anybody was making.
Yeah, unless you openly spoke about it. Yeah.
And that's when agents started negotiating for other players because they knew what other guys were making.
Yeah.
And if you were as good as him, they tried to get you the same or better or as good or as close to, right?
I just was wondering that because I never had an agent, but I remember going in and I would be speaking upon myself where, and then at other levels, an agent was doing that on your behalf and he would relay back to you and so on and so forth. But I just didn't know when that started and whatnot.
Yeah.
So now you're in Des Moines and you're playing there. Now, who was their NHL team when you were there?
Those teams didn't have NHL.
So that IHL
team
team still didn't have a sponsor. I'd call it a sponsor or a mother team that was a feeder system.
Most of those teams in the Eastern League or the International League, they weren't sponsored by any NHL.
So you were a free agent to any above team, AHL or NHL?
Well, you think you're a free agent.
Okay.
You think you're a free agent.
Yeah.
But this is how they get you. When I went from Des Moines to the training camp with the Oakland Seals, as soon as the Oakland Seals wanted to sign me,
they had to talk to Toronto.
They had to talk to Toronto. So I had to be released.
So your rights were still being held there, okay.
And until you got to the level where, this kid's improving, he might get better, so we still got him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when I got signed in the American Hockey League, I still wasn't signed by an NHL team.
Yep.
I signed the Oakland sent me to there, and I was signed to an American League contract.
Okay.
No, but if I was there, right? If Oakland wanted to bring me up, they had to get a release from Toronto.
Okay. Yeah.
Which they did.
So back then you were now they have two-way contracts, one-way contracts. Yeah. So at that point you were basically saying you were signed as a one-way player to the AHL, but if you were getting called up, they had to get permission for you to go up. That's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Geez, and back then, the old phone or I don't even know there had been fax back then. So hopefully someone was answering on the other end for you to get that call in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what happened, and when I played in Providence in my first year, I was leading the team in scoring. I was second highest scorer in the team after 10 games.
Yeah.
And 8 or 9 players were Oakland players put there.
Yep.
The us were owned by the Providence Reds,
the
American League team. So if you got called up, you had to get permission from the team. Now, all the draft picks were owned by Oakland, but I was a free agent.
Yeah.
I was considered to be a free agent until they took me up.
Yeah.
And I was free to go and play anywhere I want.
Yeah.
Right, unless I went to the Central League or the American.
Yeah.
Right? So I wasn't playing, so I went to the coach and I said, I'm a little confused. Like after 8 or 10 games, I was leading the team. I was second highest scorer on the team. And we didn't have a very good team. We weren't playing well. So I asked for a little meeting with the coach, and I asked him, what's going on? Why am I not playing after I started out like a bang? Actually, one of the exhibition games against the Philadelphia Flyers, I got 2 goals against Barry Boughner in an exhibition game, in Providence, and had a great start. And maybe I wasn't playing as well, but I thought I was. But the coach didn't think so. So you'd get maybe a couple of shifts a period, et cetera, which was hard to take. So I had the meeting with the coach, and I said, "Listen, if I'm not going to play on a regular basis here, I would prefer not to play hockey. If I can't play on a regular basis, I'd rather go home, get a life, and get a job."
Yep.
So I played a couple of games, and then went back to the not playing too much. So I called the California Seals or the Oakland Seals, and I said, "Listen, either I play here, or find me another place to play.
Yep.
Or I don't want to play anymore."
You're your advocate. You don't have an agent. You're speaking for yourself, and you're speaking from the heart.
Yeah. I don't want to be stuck.
How old would you have been at that time, Barry? Sorry.
I was 20.
20. Okay.
I was 20.
Yep.
Yeah. My first year out of junior, I was 20.
Yep.
And so I called the Oakland Seals. So Bill Torrey and Frank Selke Jr. came to Oakland, came to Providence, and we were just going on a 4-game road trip. And they said, "Barry, you're going on a 4-game road trip. You're going to get to play.
Yep.
You're playing all games." We told him either he plays or we get rid of him.
Yep.
Or you don't want him, we'll find a place to play.
Yeah.
So after the 4 games, I played very well on the 4 games I got to play. Was my proof that I should have been playing.
Yes.
all
Yeah.
along.
Yeah.
So we come back home after the road trip. We had one practice, and Frank Selke Jr. and Bill Torrey, who were later on to be with the Islanders,
Yeah.
were the general manager and assistant general manager. After the practice one day, practice was over, and I went home. I was home after the practice. My telephone rings in my apartment building.
Yeah.
I was in the upper level of a house. I was married then. And the phone rings, and the guy says, "Is this Barry?" I said, "Yeah, this is Barry." And he says, "Do you have a bag you can pack?" I says, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I can pack a bag." I said, "I don't know. Is this a joke or what?" And so I hung up the phone. This is a true story.
Yeah.
So I hung up the phone. And I never thought anything else, because guys played practical jokes on you back then, right?
Yeah, I believe
You saw, Boogie, this is the manager from the team. We're going to take you up to the Big Apple, you know. A lot of guys got sucked into that. They'd pack their bag and go to the rink and find out
There'd be
it
no
was
one
a joke.
there.
Yeah, so I hang up the phone, and God, a minute later, the phone rings again. I pick up the phone. He says, "Is this Barry?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm going to ask you again." He says, "Do you have a bag to pack?" And I says, "Is this Frank Selke Jr.?" And he goes, "Yeah." I says, "Oh my God, Mr. Selke, I'm so embarrassed." I said, "I recognize your voice, but the first time I thought it was a joke. You know how they play jokes?" He says, "Yeah." He says, I totally understand. I wasn't at all upset that you hung up the phone." So I packed my bag, and we went to Boston, and we flew out to Oakland, and that's when I got my first chance to play.
Yeah. And
that was right around Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that your very first time suiting up in the NHL, was there a chance? Did your family, were they able to make the game? Or?
Oh God, no! I didn't have the money back, and then they didn't do that.
Yeah.
And of course, my family, we didn't have the money to do that. And, I had to leave my wife. I had to leave my wife in Providence because I was only going up for a 4-game. I was coming up for 4 games.
Yep.
I was called an injury replacement.
Okay.
3 or 4 guys were injured, and they called me up for 4 games to play. Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. Yeah.
Now, so you get called up for a game. I always wonder this now, because when you were in Providence, they're an AHL team for the NHL team. Do they follow a practice regimen? So if you got the call up, you kind of know the game plan of the NHL team, or you got there and you're in the dressing room before the game and you're just learning their plays, their system at that moment, or did they feed the system down to their junior levels so everyone kind of knew? So if you did make the jump,
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier in the conversation. The guy in Providence never taught us anything.
Yeah.
We just did drills.
Yeah.
Didn't teach 2 men in, 1 man high.
Yeah.
Didn't
2-1-2.
didn't teach you flood the neutral zone.
Yeah.
Pick your man up, keep him outside. They didn't teach you how to kill penalties. They taught you nothing.
Yeah.
So I went to Oakland, nothing changed.
Okay.
It was the same.
Yeah.
I just finished. I'm halfway through a book about the Oakland Seals.
Yeah, you were mentioning that to me.
And when I went there, the coach was Freddie Glover. And Freddie Glover and I go back long before that, but that's a story for another time. Fred Glover was the coach who was one of the best American League hockey players ever. He was one of the highest scorers ever in the history of the American Hockey League. And before the game, he says, "This line's playing with this line." But that's it. They didn't tell you how you're playing. They didn't tell you anything. And in this book I'm reading, just right now, I'm reading the book, and they're talking about the whole Oakland, California's 8 or 10, 12 years.
Yep.
And one of the players talks about Freddie Glover. I shouldn't say this stuff, but it's in the book, so it's my opinion, the same as his.
Yeah, public knowledge.
He said Freddie Glover was a terrible coach, never taught anybody anything.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I went
he
through
could play
6
the
years.
game, but he couldn't teach the game.
They didn't teach hockey back at the end. The coach just says next line up, these guys are playing with each other. I shouldn't say all this, but it's true.
Yeah.
Somebody that could come back to haunt me if somebody else is different, but I
would have a difference
of opinion.
Yeah. Well, I went to a training camp one time, and there was 2 guys that I played minor hockey with that we had very good, chemistry.
Yeah.
We practiced like that in the practice. Then we went to a game, and I wasn't on either of those guys' lines, and I was like, "This is weird."
Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean, and so you're there. Your very first game, did you get regular shift, and who did you play against? Sorry. Your very first game?
We played against Bobby Orr and Esposito and the Boston Bruins.
Jeez, so you had front row
Now,
seats.
we didn't get good crowds. Crowds. They only averaged about 5,000 a game.
Yeah.
But we went out for the warm-up, and the building was packed.
Yeah.
And everybody had signs. "Go, Bruins, go." Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito were playing in Oakland.
Yeah.
I said, maybe we're in the wrong arena. But I didn't see no signs for the Oakland Seals.
Yeah.
However, that told you, that was the big bad Bruins then.
That was the era.
They actually won the Stanley Cup that year.
Okay.
70-71, right? And, it was a great experience. During the warm-up, I was skating around during the warm-up, and you asked me earlier if any of my friends or family were there, but no. And your father is he'll know the guy I'm talking about. I was teammates playing baseball with Dave Hammond. He married a girl called Sandy McLean.
Okay.
And Sandy McLean was from Watford, Ontario.
Yeah.
And Dave and Sandy I think they were married already. They might have just been married that summer. And so in the hockey season, Sandy had two sisters that lived in Oakland, California.
Okay.
They had the Navy base,
Okay.
not far from Oakland, and I'm skating around and I see these 3 beautiful girls waving at me, and I said, "Geez, maybe they like this new guy, So one of them, I'm skating around. I had the nice black hair then. I was in slender and good shape, and I keep skating around. And then I stop by the blue line where you're taking shots.
Yeah.
And they're waving the programs at me, wanting me to sign programs, and all the guys are looking at me and saying, "Boogie, who are these 3 beauties?" I said, "I have no idea." Then one of them said, "Barry, don't you recognize us? We're Sandy McLean's sister."
Okay.
Oh, and I goes, "Oh yeah." Then I recognized it because I was at the wedding that summer, right?
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of fun in my first game.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to run into someone like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Now, did they know you were getting called up, or just?
Oh, they must have read it in the paper.
Okay.
I'm assuming it was in the paper.
Yeah.
Dave might have called.
Yeah.
Dave Hammond might have called. My
Yeah.
teammate might have called. Yeah.
Yeah. We got a phone call going here.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. That's a great story, actually.
Yeah.
And so now you play your first game regular shift, or how did the first?
I
game
played a
go?
regular shift. Yeah. I don't think I played in the power play. Killed penalties.
Yeah.
And
anything remarkable or amazing in the first game?
In that first game,
Yeah.
I tell the story, and when I told the story, I probably told the story 500 times and nobody believed me.
Yeah.
It's the Bobby Orr story. And Bobby Orr, we were playing 4 men against 4. Each team was shorthanded. And we had a guy in our team named Gary Jarrett could skate. He could skate as hard as Bobby Orr. The difference between Bobby Orr and the guy like Gary Jarrett was when Bobby Orr took off from a start, in about 4 steps he was going top speed. Might take everybody else 10 or 12 or 15.
Yeah. By that time you were already behind.
Bobby Orr was like a guy being shot out of a cannon, right?
Yeah.
But the puck was shot in behind the net, and Cheevers stops the puck, playing 4 men on 4.
Yeah.
Or curls into the corner, comes behind the net, and Gary Jarrett's following him. Or comes around the net, and he cuts net close to the net.
Yeah.
And Jarrett didn't cut close; he cut wide. So Orr had a head start on him. Now coming around the net, and Orr went through the middle of the circle. Got up to the blue line, and Jarrett's behind him, chasing him all the way. And Orr cuts from the blue line all the way across center ice to the other blue and going towards our end, the Oakland end. And Jarrett's behind him all the way.
Yeah.
Now Jarrett's almost got up to him. He's tapping his stick and his pads and everything. And Orr goes into our end along the boards, and about the top of the circle, he tries to cut into our net.
Yeah.
And he can't cut into the net because we've got him blocked off.
Yeah.
And I'm on the bench watching this.
Yeah.
And the guy beside me is Mike Lawton, who played, and he's part of the story. And Orr tries to cut in, and he can't get into the net, so he goes around the net, and he has no one to pass it. He goes right, and when he was coming across center ice, out of his own end, Gary Jarrett hooked Orr's glove off. Orr lost his glove, and it went almost from the center ice. He hooked his glove, and it went back into the Bruins zone by the blue line. So Orr's got one hand, no glove, another one, and he cuts around, can't get into the net. He cuts back around our net the other side, and he has no one to pass the puck to. So he goes back outside the blue line. He goes right back to where his glove is.
Picks up his
and
glove.
this Jarrett's chasing him. It's like he's now done a figure 8. Around the net, cuts across center, goes around behind the net, goes to the blue line, cuts back across center to go to the other side to pick his glove up. And he goes right back to his glove, and Jarrett's behind him. He stops. He fakes a pass over to Dallas Smith, the other defenseman, and Jarrett cuts to catch the pass, took the bait, and Orr's got the puck. So Orr takes his hand without the glove. He puts it in his hand, the stick in his hand, puts his hand in the glove, picks it up, goes right down the boards, cuts in from the top of the circle and our end, scores backhand top corner. I'm sitting on the bench, and the crowd's going nuts. It's miraculous.
You're seeing it
There's
firsthand.
nothing like it.
Yeah.
So Mike Lawton sitting on the bench next to me, and he hits me in the ribs. He says, "Oh, can you believe that?" And I said, "I'd like to stand up and cheer." He said, "You stand up and cheer, you're going home." And he says, "But I can't wait to see that replay on TV."
Yeah. Well, that'd be pretty remarkable to see live.
So I told that story when I came home at the end of the year. I told that story for years to all the guys I played baseball and hockey with. And they never believed it. They thought I was making it up. Then one day, on the program, The Grapevine, when Don Cherry had his program, The Grapevine, right? He had Jerry Cheevers on there. And he said, what they call him, Cheesy? Whatever they called him. He said, "Jerry, I want you to tell the greatest Bobby Orr story that happened in a game." So Jerry Cheevers tells this story almost exactly as I just told this story. All of a sudden, my phone started ringing. Guys were calling from all over. Said, "Boogie, I never believed that story, but Jerry Cheevers just told the same story that you told." He says, "No, we believe it." So when I go places, people want me to tell that story because I was there. Right?
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Amazing.
You know, I look back just at my first game, and nothing to anything you did, but playing for the London Knights, they put tape on my blades and let me go for warm up by myself, and I went out like Bambi and fell, and I was like, oh boy, and I wasn't expecting it. I should have, but I wasn't, and then I was like, oh, you got me.
You know what?
Pranks are always played at different levels, and that brings some of the camaraderie.
I personally never got involved in
the pranks and the mischief side.
I never got involved in what did they call that when they initiated guys?
Initiation hazing.
I never got involved in
era.
hazing. I didn't believe in it. I don't believe in it today. I never got involved in it. I was the victim of being hazed 2 or 3 times, but thank God they weren't that vicious, because sometimes it goes overboard.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I never believed in it, and I stuck up for players. And that reminds me of another story when I played in the American Hockey League, and Bobby Nystrom. Now, if anybody, for the fans out here that might get to see that Bobby Nystrom was tough.
Yeah.
He was a tough kid.
Yeah.
And they tried to haze him in when I was playing the American Hockey League in New Haven, and on that team, we had Willie O'Ree, the first black guy to ever play in the National Hockey League, was and Chico Rush, Bobby Nystrom, and they tried to haze Nystrom. They got him, but he beat about 3 guys up in the process. Yeah. He hurt 3 or 4 guys because he was tough, and I never got involved in it. I never believed in it.
Yeah.
I thought it was stupidity.
No, I feel the same way. I've coached a junior B lacrosse team and stuff, and a high school hockey team, and I feel like what you got to realize is in life, you never ask someone to do something that you've never done. And a lot of this hazing stuff were things that people never went through themselves, so you should never put it upon someone else. And it's not building the team either. You know what I mean? It's
pretty demeaning.
Degrading, degrading. And I agree with you. And but I thought, I did think the tape on the skate was funny, because I seen it other times, but I never thought it was going to happen to me. And then I whoop, and
it's funny when you see that. But I seen guys who.
Oh, you
a lot of guys pack their hockey bags with tape on their skates when you're traveling, because your equipment was wet, eh?
Yeah.
So what you did is to stop them from rusting on the bottom. And they did rust occasionally if they didn't have good steel in it. And I played in an exhibition game when I was playing for the London National. We were playing out in Moncton. And 2 or 3, it's funny, it happened. It's hard to believe, but I can remember 2 guys coming out of the dressing room and jumping onto the ice, and both of them forgot to take the tape off. And fresh ice, they slid all over from one side of the rink to the other side. But see, I don't believe in doing that to anybody either, too, because a guy who goes out, does like that, could pull his groin and take a very serious injury. So I wasn't involved in all those pranks. I didn't believe in them.
Now, I just have a couple points that you spoke on there. Now, you were talking about Willie O'Ree, being the first black hockey player, and then Alton White as well. You played with Alton White as well, and
Alton White played with me in the American Hockey League, and great guy, one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. He was black.
And
him and I were the best of friends.
Yeah, he was the second black player to play pro hockey.
He may have been. I don't know that. Is that true?
Yeah.
Well, he started out first. He played in Columbus in the International Hockey League.
Yeah.
And then he came to Providence. He was great. Him and I were the best of friends. We're still best friends. We talk all the time, and we lived in the same house. He lived in one side. I lived in the other side. We became great teammates. I'll tell you a great story about Alton White. It was scary and funny at the same time. We were playing in Baltimore in the American Hockey League, and we got there the day before the game. And the day we get there, we usually pick up a newspaper and read a newspaper just to see what's going on in sports, and read about the game. Maybe we're going to play against the Baltimore Clippers, as they're called. And we were the Providence Reds. And in the newspaper, there was an article, and it was on the TV when we were watching the news, that just outside our hotel, we were on the corner, and on the other corner, and across from there, like kitty corner, was a McDonald's. And there was a murder. 2 or 3 people got murdered at the McDonald's. And they happened to catch the guys, and we were in the black neighborhood. We were in the black neighborhood. I don't want to say the ghetto; it was the black neighborhood. And so, you had to mind your P's and Q's when you left the hotel, right? Always team up with somebody. 2 or 3 guys, right? Because you just walk out of the hotel, walk across the street, and on the other corner was the McDonald's. So. Another team was coming into the building, and I don't know what happened. I was talking to one of the players in the lobby, and we called him. His name was Alton White, and he was black, but we called him Whitey. That's what he liked to be called.
Yeah, well, nicknames.
And so he said to me, "Boogie, I want to get going." I says, "Well, I'll just be a minute." He says, "Well, I'll just walk slow, and I'll also go slow, and you can catch it to me." I said, "I'll just be a minute. I wanted to finish my conversation with my buddy there, one of the players." So I finished the conversation. I crossed the street, and I started walking down the street. And by this time, Alton White, Whitey was his name, Whitey, not thinking. I'd say it was a no-brain moment for me. But not thinking. His name's Whitey. So he's walking down the street. He's 50, 100 yards in front of me, and now there's the McDonald's, and there's two black guys walking up the other side of the street, and I'm a white guy, and I holler, "Whitey, wait for me, Whitey!" I'm hollering, "Whitey!" And these two black guys see this white guy named Barry hollering at a black guy, calling him Whitey. So these two black guys start walking across the street.
They thought you were insulting them in a different way.
Now I'm terrified. So I'm hollering Whitey, and Whitey turns around and sees these black guys, and he comes running back. "It's okay, he's my friend, my friend, my friend." And thank God he got there, because he got there just before those two guys. I have no idea what would have happened.
Oh, geez. Well, you know, different era, right? You never know what could happen, right?
Some stories that really had nothing to do with hockey, but had to do with teammates.
No, so I had Willie O'Ree and Alton White, because, I mean, in that era, they were breaking through barriers. And, you know, you guys were traveling, I'm going to imagine, mainly on buses and hotels, and just, you know, in and out quickly, and doing a lot of road trips. And
both teams, when I played Providence, Providence with Alton White first. Then 2 or 3 years later, I played in New Haven in the American League with Willie O'Ree. Both, it's hard to believe, they're both phenomenal guys, wonderful guys. They both dressed to the nines. They were great guys, nice to talk to.
I just bring them up just because in that era, that's remarkable. So like I say, now I did some research, Alton White, because all those classifications of levels of hockey they call pro. So Alton White was the second pro, is how I got the information. So not in the NHL, but second pro, meaning in one of the levels. But you know, I got some other guys on here that you know, you played with Steve Sutherland. You know, you played with him in Des Moines. But even in London, you played with Walt McEachran, Bob Cook, Gary Unger, Daryl Sittler. You know, you played with Daryl Sittler.
My last year at junior, the last year of the London Nationals, 67-68, was Daryl's first year. So he played for the London Nationals 67-68. Now, I'm going to tell you about Daryl Sittler got lucky that year. He was... he went in the midget draft. They had a midget draft. And Turk Broda took Sittler, first round. And that same year, it was Gary Younger. Gary Younger could have played Junior A that year. Walt McEachran could have played Junior A. And the year before, this is Junior A the year before, Gary Younger played, Walt McEachran, and Mo St. Jacques, owned by the Montreal Canadiens. All three of our centermen. Sittler comes, he's the fourth centerman. Montreal Canadiens turned Mo St. Jacques pro. The Leafs turned Unger pro, and they took McEachran pro. So in Daryl Sittler's luck, all three of those guys turned pro. He became our first centerman. He might have been the fourth.
Well, out of that group, so you're right.
He got lucky. Good for him. He's one of my best friends. Still, we talk today. I introduced him to the woman he married. She was my best friend.
That's remarkable. That's a great story.
Sittler, and he led our league and led our team in scoring. Too. Now,
when you watch Bobby Orr live and you watch Daryl Sittler live, could you be there as a fan and be like, you saw something special? Don't get me wrong, there's always right place, right time, right moment. But besides becoming the first liner, could you see something special in those guys? Or were you looking at that each game individually, like today Jim was the best player, yesterday Bob was the best player? Could you see...
Well, Bobby Orr is a star. Bobby Orr was a star in junior. And
Yeah.
The way he could skate, like.
Oh yeah, just something different. You knew there was something different about his skating ability.
He in my opinion, everybody has a difference of opinion,
Yep.
and you're entitled to that.
Oh yeah, yep.
Bobby Orr changed the way hockey was played more than anybody.
Yeah.
Because back in that day, there was hardly a defenseman in hockey that would rush the puck.
Yeah.
You can talk in any level of hockey.
Yeah. It was almost
Defenseman
you weren't supposed to
move
it up and get a change and.
You played Doug Harvey hockey.
Yeah.
One pass out, pass out. The Doug Harvey. To me, Doug Harvey and Bobby Orr are the two greatest defensemen that ever lived. I picked my all-star team.
Yeah.
Doug Harvey's my first, and Bobby Orr is my second.
Yeah, yeah.
And Orr was different. He changed the game more than he changed the game. He made defenseman offensive defenseman.
Yes.
And that changed the whole game.
Yeah.
The game become from a defensive game, 3-2, 2-1s, 4-3.
Yeah.
It became the scoring became.
Yeah.
And
look
how the
from
point.
all angles.
Back in those days, the guy had 70 points, led the league in scoring.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years later, guys were scoring 80 and 90 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they came the Gretzky's era, where the guys were going 100, 120, 130, 140 points. The whole game became totally offensive.
Yeah,
right?
well, you think even with Gretzky, with Paul Coffey as a defenseman, he was right up in the team in
Oh,
points.
yeah. But in terms of Darryl Sittler, when he came to our team the first year, he led our team in scoring, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, yeah. You didn't see it at that moment.
He played a different game.
Yeah.
He hardly stood out.
Yeah.
He just worked hard. He worked hard.
Yeah.
To me, he looked like he was struggling as a skater.
Yeah.
But he worked so hard at it.
Yeah.
He tried so hard.
Yeah.
He became two-way player.
Yeah.
And he worked his butt off. He'd take a hit, he'd give a hit. And, but I never thought, personally, at that point in time, I didn't think he'd become the player he was, but he did.
It's funny.
He made himself the player he was.
Yeah. I played with guys where, I think because I played with them and I saw them every day.
Yeah.
I was like, he didn't have it.
Yeah.
But then when I didn't play with him and he played for someone else, I'm like, well, he's got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you get used to how people play and how certain things go. Yeah. But as soon as they get traded or you see them move up a level, I'm like, boy, I played with him, but he has it, And
the thing I actually introduced Darryl Sittler to the woman he married because the woman he married was my best friend in high school.
Yeah.
Wendy Bibbings was her name.
Yeah.
She had long blonde hair right down to the waist, and she was beautiful. It was like she's a 10 out of 10, maybe an 11 out of 10.
Yeah,
right? She was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And Darryl was such a nice guy. Like if you couldn't get along with Darryl Sittler at that time, maybe after that, I don't know. He didn't say much. He was a pretty quiet guy and easy to get along with.
Yeah.
And Wendy knew me because she used to come to all the games. And she came to me in high school one day and she says, Barry, I'd like you to introduce me to that Sittler guy.
Yeah.
And I said, oh yeah. I said, sure. So I talked to Sittler at practice and I said, Darryl, tomorrow, I have a really good friend of mine. I want you to meet a buddy of mine tomorrow.
Yeah.
Great buddy of mine, and I'd like you to meet my buddy. And he really wants. I said my buddy really wants to meet you. I didn't say he or she. I kept using the word buddy.
That's awesome.
Now, when a guy says that to you, that doesn't sound like a female.
No, it doesn't.
Your buddy is usually your male friend.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So anyway, I come out of HBBL Secondary School, and there must be 10 or 12 from the sidewalk up to the school.
Yeah.
And Wendy and I are sitting down in about the second or third street step, and I had one of my other male friends with me.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're sitting facing the road, and Darryl Sittler comes out of school, and he walks past us. He goes down a couple steps. He turns around. Now he's looking at me.
Yeah.
My male buddy.
Yeah.
And my female buddy.
And he's thinking he's going to.
And he's thinking he's here to meet this male buddy. And so I introduced him to my male buddy. I forget his name, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's too bad I forget her name, because I fit his name. He's a real nice guy. And I said, now I'd like you to read the buddy that I wanted you to introduce you to. And I said, Wendy, this is Darryl. Darryl, this is we sat and chatted for a few minutes,
Yeah.
and I figured it was time for me and my male buddy
to walk
exit.
away. Yeah.
So we exited, and I never seen Sittler after that. The only time
He was
I ever,
occupied.
never seen him in school.
Yeah.
The only time I ever saw him was at the arena.
Yeah.
So they got along really well, and eventually they married, and he's wrote a book called The Captain, and he tells that story in the book.
Yeah, that's
about
amazing.
me, and him and I are best of friends.
You know, some of the good memories weren't even about the game. It was what was going on outside the game and the building of friendships you did and things like that.
One of the other things about playing hockey and baseball, about playing against guys, you know, when you play against them, they're back in our day, we called them the enemy.
Yeah.
We can admit it. I mean, you never talked to anybody you played against.
Yeah.
No, that was against the rules in hockey.
Yeah.
If you got caught talking to somebody in the other team, well, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? Like, imagine what it was like on the trains when Detroit and
travel,
Toronto, and they're both on the same train.
Yeah.
Detroit's in this boxcar and they're that car. They couldn't talk to each other.
Yeah, make for a long trip.
When sports was all over,
the
way I looked at it was, we all played the same game.
Yeah.
We all made the same sacrifices.
Yeah.
We were all there for the same reasons. And I call everybody I played with and against a teammate. They're all like teammates to me.
Yeah.
But back in that era, that would never happen.
Yeah, I like how you put that. Everyone was a teammate. Everyone, gave.
Oh, I love talking to guys I played against.
Yeah, everyone made sacrifices.
Yeah,
and,
I respect them.
Yeah.
Every one of them. Yeah. Even if I didn't like them.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I fought a lot of guys that I didn't respect, but at the end of the day, I had respect at that moment for what we both were doing. You know?
Billy, we could be here for 5 hours. I got more stories.
Yeah.
I could talk for 3 more hours and all the stories.
We'll carry on here with some of your hockey, and then we'll get into your coach, and then we'll take a break. So, when you were in Oakland and in California, I haven't heard the story verbatim from you. I've read articles. Tell me the story about wearing white skates or painting the skates white.
Well, I went up from the American Hockey League the first time I went up, 1969. I went up at Christmas in 69.
Yeah.
So that hockey's 69-70. Now, some people call that 70. I call them by the season because
that's how I do it.
You play more. You play more from September to December than after. So
I do the same thing.
I got called up just before Christmas for 4 games, and when I went up there, they were in California gold and Kelly green, not white.
Yep.
The white came after, and everybody talks about the white skates, but the gold and green came first.
Okay.
So they painted my skates gold and green.
So they were green first. Okay.
Gold and green.
Yeah.
California gold and Kelly green, they called it. So when I went back to the American League, I'm wearing gold and green skates. So everybody knew that you'd went up, right? And then the next year, I don't even know if there were colored skates or not, but it was the year after that they were white, but they didn't wear them very long. They only played them for a few games.
Okay.
And they were so ugly, the players wouldn't wear them anymore.
Yeah. I remember hearing the story, and I couldn't believe it myself.
Yeah.
But so now you're in you're in your last year of so you got called up 2 different years to the show.
Yeah.
And you played. I have respect for every person that puts in the effort and plays. Now, when you were there and playing, how did the regular, and I won't say regular, how did the team take you in as being a call-up? Did they bring you up and give you pointers? Did they say, oh, we played this team 2 weeks ago? Or were you treated like a rookie where, you were an outsider because you were playing mainly in the A? Like, how did that come about?
It's a fantastic question with a great story. Yeah, I got called up. The whole story was fantastic.
Yeah.
Flew out of Boston. I had my winter coat on.
Yeah.
It was like that was 3 feet of snow. It was cold as hell. Got on the plane in Boston, and we landed in L.A. Here I am with big, heavy winter boots on.
Yeah.
My bag's packed. Pants. Big, heavy winter coat. It's got to be 95 degrees out. What am I going to do?
Yeah, you got to
get off the plane, and I got to carry my winter coat. They probably said, where did this caveman come from? And I thought we were going to take a cab and we get off the airplane, and they said, "No, Barry, we're going down here, we're going over there, we're going there." I said, "Well, where are we going?" They said, "Well, we're taking a helicopter across the bay, across the San Francisco Bay."
Yeah.
So we have to walk from the airport down onto the tarmac to get into the helicopter.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the noise drive you nuts. Wow. You get on the helicopter, and it starts going across the San Francisco Bay. I'm going to tell you, there's no way you could hear the next guy if he was hollering as loud as no earplugs, I couldn't stand the ride. I couldn't wait to get the hell off the helicopter. Finally, we landed. The next day, well, this is a long story, really. It's my, so I'm going to they take me to the Edgewater Hyatt House is where I'm going to be staying.
Okay.
My stay is going to be there for the 4 games. I'm not staying at a house. I'm at the Edgewater Hyatt House. And I check in. When I check into the Edgewater Hyatt House, the Toronto Maple Leafs are there.
Okay. So they were just leaving from
They're just leaving. They played the night before. Now, they say I played my first game against Toronto. I did not.
Yeah.
They might have said that in the paper, but I never played.
Yeah, yeah.
So the Toronto Maple Leafs are there, and I walk in, and there's my buddy Daryl Sittler.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's Jim Dory, my 2 teammates from Junior A.
Yeah, that'd be pretty exciting.
So I'm sitting there talking to them, right? Yeah. And they said, and I said, "What are you guys doing there?" It says, "Well, I played last night." I didn't know they played.
Yeah.
That was, "Well, we're just down here. We just have our lunch now. We got to go back up and pack our bags." So they go back up and pack their bags, and I go and have lunch when I come back down, and they're still there in the lobby. And then I said, "Okay, I'm gonna go back upstairs. I'm gonna have my afternoon nap before I have to go to the rink."
Yeah.
And Sittler and Dory walk up the stairs with me. Now I'm on the same floor, only I'm at the front of the hotel.
Yep.
And all the Leafs are at the far end of the hotel.
Yeah.
And when we get there, Dory and I and Sittler are at the top of the stairs on the second floor, and I look down and I see all the other Leafs are out in the hallway. They're all congregated out in the hallway. They're all standing there talking, which I never seen before.
Yeah, yeah. And
they're all standing there talking. So somebody hollers to Jim Dory, Jim, come on down here. They're hollering at Dory and Daryl. So Jim Dory walks down the hallway to where all the Leaf players are. And there's Tim Horton and Carl Brawl, all the stars, right? Mike Walton and all the guys. And Jim Dory goes down. He's there for a couple minutes. Daryl and I are we're still chatting. Yeah. And Jim Dory comes back and he says, "Daryl, you got to come down." He says, "Why?" He said, "They just traded Tim Horton to the New York Rangers."
Oh, geez.
And I almost fell down because Tim Horton was my favorite Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah, yeah.
Along with Dave Keon, Frank Mahovlis, and Johnny Bauer.
Yeah.
I wasn't a Leaf fan, but I really liked those guys. So I'm there when Tim Horton gets traded. One of my favorite players of all time. Yeah.
So that was all in your first day. That's
my first day.
Yeah.
And then the next day of the game, you're asking about how I was treated.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's pretty sad what happened. I'm getting dressed for the game, and nobody's talking to me. Nobody says hello. Who are you? Goodbye.
Cold shoulder.
Yeah. Because back in those days, that's really the way rookies were treated.
Yeah.
They would even tell the rookies, "Pick my bag up and carry it." But for me, that might have been the way it did. But I felt like I don't know. I can't even find a word for it. I wasn't anybody's servant.
No.
So I wouldn't. If someone told me that, I'd say, "Your arms and legs broken. Carry your."
Yeah.
But anyway, to make the story a lot shorter, I was right inside the door, and beside me was Charlie Hodge, who won the Vezina Trophy 2 or 3 times with the Montreal Canadiens.
Okay.
He was a goalie, and Gary Suitcase Smith was the other goaltender.
Yeah.
And Harry Howell, who just finished playing about 16 years for the New York Rangers, was down at the far end of the thing. And I don't even know if he was an assistant captain. He may have been, but I'm not so sure he was. Ted Hampson was the captain, and I think Jerry Eamon and Earl Lingerfield might have been the assistant captains. But Harry Howell was a very great defenseman.
Yeah.
He had just won the Norris Trophy for best defenseman 2 or 3 years before, and when he won it, he said, "I'm glad I won this trophy because that number 4 for Boston is nobody else will win one for the next 10 years."
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm getting dressed, and Charlie Hodge is, and I'm really nervous. It's my first game, and I'm sweating, and I'm sitting right beside him. And Fred Glover, the coach, walks in the room, and he walks down to the far end of the room, and he said, "Okay, this is going to be the starting line tonight, and these will be the 2 defensemen, Vadnais with Harry Howell, the starting line, Ted Hampson with I think it was Gary Corrado and Norm Ferguson. I think that was the starting lineup."
Yeah.
And then he says, "Charlie Hodge, you're starting in goal." Now, Fred Glover's at the far end of the room.
Yeah.
He walks out. And Charlie Hodge says to me, I can't repeat what he says. He said, "I told that coach I didn't want to play anymore. I've had enough. I don't want to play anymore." Now, I'm a rookie. It's my first game.
Yeah.
I'm sweating and I'm squeezing the hockey stick so hard it might have sawdust, might have made it into soda. And here's a guy who's got the starting assignment for goals, says, "I told the coach I don't want to play anymore."
Yeah.
So right now I'm saying to myself, I'm in a pretty weird position
Yeah.
here.
What have I got myself?
And nobody's talking to me.
Yeah.
Nobody says hello, welcome to the team or anything.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Harry Howell walks all the way from the other room, all the way down to the cross the other room, stood in front of me, and he's huge.
Yeah.
He's got hands like this.
Yeah.
His one
Big
hand's the
man.
size of my 2 hands.
Yeah.
They called him Horse because he was just huge.
A
Man,
big man. Yeah.
A big man. And he said, "Barry, stand up," shook my hand. "I want to welcome you to the team, and I wish you all the best of luck."
Jeez.
Now, that's a professional.
Yeah. That's what you remember.
That's a
him.
guy who wasn't worried about his job.
Yeah.
But some of the other guys, when they see a rookie come in and go skate like hell, and there's a little bit of tough bugger,
Yeah.
they don't talk to you because you might take their place.
Yeah. And that's the sad
And
part.
that's how all rookies were treated back then. But today, they welcome you like, "We're happy to help you. Or if you're going to help our team, we're glad to
Well,
have
yeah.
you."
At the end of the day, it's about success, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't
And
matter who you are.
they didn't treat you very good.
Yeah.
They wanted you to carry their bags and everything, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So now, say your 4th, 5th, 6th time called up. Did that change, or because you
Not really. I was sort of treated that way both times. I went up for 4 games, then the next year I went up for before Christmas, and I stayed there the whole rest of the year.
Yeah.
Now, that was a wonderful feeling to have, to be in the National Hockey League. But in reality, for me, I think it ruined my.
Your dream wasn't played out quite how you thought it would?
I was disappointed because I'd play 1 game and sit. I wouldn't even play or dress for 5. Play 1 or 2 games, and when I played, I didn't play much.
Yeah.
So to me, I felt like it was the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
And I think it ruined. I almost wasted a whole year because I didn't play much.
Yeah.
So here you are in the National Hockey League. They bring you up from the American League, and you don't play much.
Yeah.
It really, and I played another 3 or 4 years after that.
Yeah.
And I got hurt there that year too. I had an injury that I think sort of ruined my hockey career, but I played through it for the next 3 or 4 years.
Now we'll take a break here. I just we'll finish this segment. What would we say was your highest moment? What was your lowest moment? And what was what you took away from your time playing pro hockey? So your highest moment of pro hockey, your lowest moment of pro hockey, and what did you take away from your whole experience of pro hockey?
Well, I think most guys, the highest moment is the first day you play.
Yep.
The last thing I ever did when I played baseball and hockey, the last thing I did is tied my skates up.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I did.
Yeah.
Because that means I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some guys might put their jersey on last.
Yeah.
I did my skates. I did that because I knew when I'm tightening it up, it was time to go.
Yeah, it's game time. Yeah.
So that was a great experience for me. Well, it was your dream come true.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted to be, and you made it. And
what would you say was the lowest moment?
I probably got pretty emotional and probably shed a few tears.
Yeah.
Because it was your dream.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You conquered, and you worked hard to get there.
I think my lowest moment was at the end of that year. I went right from the National Hockey League right down to back to the International Hockey League where I began.
Yep.
And I figured, I didn't think, based on my experience and the injury that I had, I figured that might be the end of my hockey career.
Yeah.
And I decided to play that year in the International League. And if I didn't make it back to the American League the next year,
Yep.
I would have quit. But I went back to the American League and I said, well, I'm at a level I still might get a chance.
Yep. Yep.
And I almost did, because I was owned by the Islanders then, because the Islanders and Bobby Nystrom played there and Chico Rush played there, and I played there, and I was owned by the Islanders, and I played with the first black guy ever played in the NHL, Willie O'Ree.
Yep.
So I was revitalized a little bit. I
Yeah.
was a little more enthused.
Yeah.
But if I didn't go back to the American Hockey League that day, I probably would have quit. And then I played one more year and decided,
That was enough.
I played.
So it was your decision to walk away at the end of the day, would you say, Barry? Like there was options playing international hockey for...
The next year I played in the Central Hockey League in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
I played in the Central League. I was sent there by the Islanders. And I probably could have played in the American Hockey League again, but I decided that at 26 years old that I figured I was never going to go back to the National Hockey League, so I said, I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quit.
Yeah.
And I was happy with that. I was never upset. I made a decision. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, as long as you can live with your decision, right?
Yeah.
You went out on your own terms.
I went out on my own terms, yeah.
And then what did you take away from the whole experience? Like, like if you could say, it was a lot of highs, a lot of lows. Was it stressful on you? You were married and you were at the Reds, and then you went up and your wife couldn't go with you. Like your whole experience, how did you feel like it went? And not what could you change, but how do you think it went?
Well, your entire professional hockey career is stressful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. You can, like myself, I had a bad injury in Oakland.
Yeah.
And I couldn't play as aggressive as I wanted to play.
Yeah.
I could skate, but I had 2 bad shoulders and a bad neck. And years later, what really happened is I had to have a serious back operation. It was from that injury.
Yeah.
And no, I guess you lived your dream.
Yeah.
You lived your dream. The dream just wasn't long enough.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like a 2-minute dream, instead of a 2-hour dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about you might dream 10 years in a dream. I dreamt parts of 2 years, but it was okay. I made it, and it reminds me of a story. And when I made it, I thought about what happened to me when I played minor hockey.
Yeah.
And I was old enough to play in the midget hockey team, but I decided to go and play junior C.
Yeah.
And when I played junior C in Simcoe, I'd come back and watch the midget team play. And one of the fathers on the midget team wasn't happy with my decision to go play in Simcoe, Ontario, junior C. He says, because Barry, if you play in this midget team, we're going to win a championship with you here. And he says, you're not big enough, you're not good enough, you're not going to make it anyway.
Oh.
That's what a father actually said to me.
Yeah.
Honestly. And my whole life, every day and every moment after I played in the National Hockey League, I thought about that man's story to me.
Yeah.
And I was so happy I didn't pay attention to him.
Yeah.
But I was so disappointed that he would think that it wasn't important for me to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he thought it was better for me to stay in minor hockey and win a championship instead of playing hockey. And when he said, you're not good enough or big enough, that was the biggest motivation of my life.
Drove you, drove
me.
Yeah. Now, I guess before we end it here, you talked about your injury. Now, one thing that I looked at, whether I was in the military, my grandfather was, but military, university sports, I look at this way now. Junior hockey, you get treated well, whether it's medical staff or your resources, but when the sport is done, did you feel like all that stopped as well? Like, did all your did your resources stop, and now you had to find your own resources? Like an injury that could carry on, or like say I'm a university football player, I blow my ACL.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You aren't usable to us anymore. So school's done. You now go to the real world, and you have to fend for yourself on these injuries, right? But if you're still playing the game, you're their number one priority to get you back in the game. But when the game's done, the resource isn't there.
Back in that day, I think, no doubt back in that day, once you retired from the sport,
you walked away from the sport.
I don't think the teams took care of anybody.
Yeah.
Not that I know of. I can't say that for everybody, but from what I experienced, once you left the game, you were on your own. But I don't think it's like that today.
No, I think they learn from certain situations like that, and hopefully it's not like that today.
I'm sure in the contracts today, if you suffer serious injuries, I'm sure that there's some kind of compensation from the National Hockey League or Major League Baseball. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my assumption.
I hope there is as well,
I believe there is,
Well, stay tuned. We'll be back with Barry Boughner here. We're just going to take a break, and we'll be back. Thanks. So please stick around for a part 2 with Barry Boughner talking about playing in the Intercounty Baseball League, and then also some stories of him playing in the NHL, the AHL, and Intercounty Baseball, and the former professional players he played with. Stay tuned for part 2.